Welcome at Cultures.Academy. I am excited to talk to Lavinia Thanapathy. Lavinia, you are professional public speaker. You are LinkedIn Top Voice 2020. You are TEDx speaker on change. You have a LinkedIn newsletter called Embrace the Crazy. It has lots of followers, thousands of followers, and your engagement on LinkedIn is regularly in the top 1%. You are doing something right with LinkedIn. And you are training people on how to set up and how to use LinkedIn. And at our academy, you're giving the course LinkedIn for Professional Beginners. Let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn and your course. Who are professional beginners?
Oh, what a great term, right? Professional beginners. So these are usually people who have a long career. They usually have been in their jobs for 10 years or so, and they're at least middle management, if not senior management themselves. What they're not doing and where they are the beginner is they're not using LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is such a powerful tool for networking, for generating sales leads, for creating future opportunities because none of us have jobs for life anymore. So it's important, even when you have a steady job, that you're creating the right impression about yourself, that you're creating a version of yourself out in the world that people can look for. And also it's a great way for networking. I cannot tell you how amazing it's been as a tool for networking as well.
Talking about setting up a profile on LinkedIn, I assume that everybody can do it. Is there anything that can be done wrong while setting up a
Oh,
profile?
so much can go wrong. So much can go wrong. So yeah, you would have thought setting up a profile on LinkedIn would be very simple, but
Yeah.
actually, I love LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. It's totally my platform. But LinkedIn isn't the most intuitive platform. So people often make mistakes on LinkedIn where you see it like any other social media platform. So you think your profile is a bit like how it is on Instagram or on Facebook, and it's very different. It's much more like your website. I think if I was to approach it, the best way to approach it is like having your own personal website. So you want to make sure, for instance, a lot of people get the simple things like their profile photo wrong. The best profile photos are the ones that look into the camera, where your face occupies at least 60% of the photo and that you're smiling. So it's amazing how many people get that wrong. You have so much real estate on a LinkedIn profile to use. And what I help people with is we go through all the parts that you can use and make it as good as it can be, that it reflects your own brand, your personal brand. And I help people tell their career stories because one of the great parts about your profile is when you can tell your career story.
You're talking about quality content versus noise on LinkedIn. What is it and how does it impact credibility, professional credibility? What does it impact? Can you talk a little bit about it?
Oh, yes. So it impacts your whole brand. It's the way the world sees you. So what is your personal brand? Your personal brand are the words that people would use to describe you when you're not in the room. And LinkedIn allows you to select what that looks like. I often say this is the best time in the world to not be famous. Because if you're a famous person, you can't control what's being written about you on the internet. But if you're like us, you and me, we may have been in the press a couple of times, but maybe not a lot. And so you get to control how you turn up on the internet. And one of the best ways is through LinkedIn. LinkedIn has excellent search engine optimization, SEO. And so you can be found by the words that you use in your LinkedIn profile. So being smart about how you use those words and what skills you choose to put in, how to get recommendations, whether you should get recommendations. Noise is when you just put out content for the sake of putting out content. And I don't recommend anybody does that, especially not someone who is senior in their role. It's very important that what you put out is really reflective of who you are. So I teach people how to use LinkedIn without having to create TikTok video type things. You get to, if you like writing, I'll show you how to write. If you like to record sound, I'll show you how to do that. If you want to share stories, I'll show you how to do that too. So it's really finding a way that you're comfortable with on LinkedIn.
What is one thing that people do not realize about LinkedIn? Is there anything that appears again and again and again?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So many things. But the number one thing, if I had to change one thing and one thing only about the way people use LinkedIn, is people forget it's social networking. It's social, which means you're meant to have conversations. One of the most overlooked and powerful things you can do on LinkedIn is to engage with other people's content. It's not just about what you put out into the world, but what you're doing with what other people, how you're having the conversations with people who are creating content. Um, LinkedIn has 740 million users. Out of that 740 million users, only about 1% create content. Everyone else is consuming content. And if you consume content quietly, like in stealth mode, without liking or commenting on other people's posts, you are reducing your own experience of LinkedIn. One of the most powerful tools is really the ability to comment and have conversations with people. And you don't have to just limit it to people you know. The gold, I always say, is in the second degree connections. So, yeah, that's the one thing.
So this is the advice that you give more often than the others? Be social on LinkedIn, or what is your number one advice, piece of advice when it comes to LinkedIn?
I think that is my number one advice. That's followed very closely by have a look at your photo. Because photos, people make the most obvious mistakes with photos. The number one thing that people consider when they choose whether to accept a connection request is really the way the photo looks. If it's a professional looking photo, you don't need a professional photo shoot. You can do it with your mobile phone. That's perfectly fine. Just don't make it look like a selfie. Have someone take it with your mobile phone. That's perfectly fine. Just make sure it's not a distracting background. I would not use this background, for instance. It's too noisy. I would use a much simpler background. And I would, or use a background that's reflective of your where you are and what your career is. Yeah. So it's really keeping it clean and making sure you're smiling and looking into the camera. So many people have these very awful, awful profile photos, and that's the number one thing that people see.
Right. So let me ask you a personal question. I know that you have relocated from Singapore to Berlin in the middle of pandemics, in the middle of lockdown, and relocations are having a great impact on a career and professional life, especially if they are not initiated by you, but your spouse. How did LinkedIn support you during this
Yeah.
relocation?
If you have an international career or an international life and you're likely to move around, LinkedIn is a wonderful way to carry your network with you. People move. No one stays in one job forever. Even if you had their business card from one job, you might not have the business card from the next job, so you might not have updated information about them. So, but they always update their LinkedIn with their next move. So, keeping my LinkedIn account active and continuing to grow my network, even as we moved, meant that I could work almost immediately. I had my first speaking engagement like within 7 days of arriving in Germany. So it really allows me to continue with my career. It allows me to continue with my connections. And it's amazing how you can do that. And now I work across several time zones. And actually, in front of me, I have all the different time zones because I work across several. And a lot of that is thanks to my LinkedIn network.
So, what is your superpower when it comes to being LinkedIn professional? Give me one quality, Lavinia Thanapathy.
I am a master commenter. I know how to comment on other people's posts. So, one of the things you really want to be aware of, and what I do a lot of, is I may not post every day, but I comment every single day. If you want that number one thing to do differently, comment every day on other people's posts. It's amazing how you can create connections with people that you actually may not be able to reach in real life. People who have very influential roles, people who are much younger than you, people much older than you, people who are in whole different countries and industries. You can reach out to them. People are interested in people who are interested in them. Most of us are focused on ourselves. So when you show an interest in other people, they will show an interest in you too. So that's my number one power, my ability to comment.
So, when I joined your course, LinkedIn for Professional Beginners, I have a chance to start getting as good as you are. Is it
Well,
right?
I can. Well, what I will do is I will give you an excellent roadmap. I will plot out all the places where there are potholes and all the routes that you should take and the possible ones that are better for you. But I can't drive your car. You have to do the work. What I can do though is give you a very, very good map.
That sounds fantastic. I am in. I am definitely in. And so is everyone welcome to join us who feels attracted by this offer. Thank you very much for the conversation, Lavinia.
Bye, Natalia. Lovely to speak to you.